Introduction. There are places on this earth where silence is not just the absence of sound, but the presence of something alive, something ancient. Deep in the valleys of forgotten hills lies a forest the locals refuse to enter. They say it breathes, they say it feeds, and those who stay too long are never truly seen again. Arrival. It began as a dare. 3 friends, Daniel, Claire, and Matthew, decided to explore the forest at dusk. They had heard the stories, hikers who vanished, search parties that returned empty-handed, and old men in the village tavern whispering warnings. About the breathing woods, the path into the trees looked harmless. Autumn leaves scattered across the ground. The scent of moss and pine hung in the air, but Daniel felt it first, the weight of the air pressing into his lungs. "Do you feel that?" he asked. Claire laughed nervously. "It's just damp air. We're in the woods." But as they walked deeper, all 3 began to notice it. Breathing became a conscious act. The air was thick, heavy, as though each inhale was stolen from something else. The first signs. The forest grew darker far too quickly. Shadows stretched unnaturally, curling around the trees. The silence was absolute. No birds, no rustling animals, no distant hum of life. Just the faint, steady rhythm, like the inhaling and exhaling of a giant creature. Matthew stopped. His lips were pale. I can't catch my breath," he wheezed. Daniel grabbed his arm. "We're almost out of daylight. We should turn back." But the path behind them was gone. Where there had been a trail, now there was only undergrowth, thick and impenetrable, as if the forest had closed behind them. Claire's voice trembled. "It feels like the trees are moving, watching." And then they saw it. A low fog crept between the trunks, swirling like smoke. But it didn't drift with the wind. It pulsed, expanding and contracting, perfectly in time with that strange sound, the forest breathing, the feeding. Minutes stretched into hours. The deeper they went, the weaker they felt. Claire stumbled, clutching her head. "I can't remember why we came here," she whispered. Her memories were slipping away. Names, places, even her own face in her mind's eye began to blur. Daniel shook her. "Stay with me. We came together. We need to get out together." But Matthew had already collapsed, gasping for air, eyes wide with terror. His chest rose and fell rapidly, then slowed, until it matched the rhythm of the forest itself. Daniel leaned closer, horrified. Matthew's breaths weren't his own anymore. He was breathing in perfect sync with the forest, his body moving like a puppet. And when the next exhale came, a thin mist escaped his lips and vanished into the trees. The forest had stolen part of him. Descent into madness. Panic surged through Daniel, but even panic felt sluggish here, dulled by the suffocating air. Every step was heavier. His lungs burned. His vision swam. The trees loomed closer together, bark twisting into grotesque faces. He thought he heard whispers, voices carried in the breath of the woods. "Breathe with us. Stay with us. Become us." Claire screamed. Her body convulsed as if invisible hands were squeezing her lungs. She clawed at her throat, eyes rolling back, and then she went still, standing upright, her chest rising and falling with the same inhuman rhythm. Her voice, but not her own, whispered, "The forest remembers. The forest feeds. Alone, Daniel ran. He didn't know which direction, only that he had to move. Roots snagged at his feet. Branches tore at his clothes. But still he pushed forward. The breathing grew louder. Each inhale rattled his bones. Each exhale stole his strength. He stumbled into a clearing. The ground pulsed beneath him, soft as if he were standing on the chest of some enormous beast. In the center of the clearing stood shapes. At first he thought they were statues, weathered and moss-covered. But then he saw their eyes, empty sockets, staring from faces twisted in silent screams. Bodies fused into tree trunks, their flesh hardened into bark. They weren't statues. They were the lost, those who had breathed with the forest until they became part of it. The choice. Daniel collapsed to his knees, chest heaving. His vision blurred. He could hear his own breath sinking with the forest's rhythm. He fought to resist, forcing himself to breathe out of step. But it was like swimming against a current that never ended. The mist swirled around him, wrapping cold fingers around his throat. He saw Claire and Matthew standing at the edge of the clearing, their faces blank, their eyes black and hollow. They inhaled as one. The forest inhaled. "Join us," they whispered. "Breathe." The ending, open. Daniel screamed and forced his body forward, clawing his way out of the clearing, back toward the faint glow of moonlight. Every step felt like drowning. His lungs screamed for air, but the air was poison, heavy and wrong. He stumbled, fell, dragged himself on his hands and knees until finally, at the edge of the trees, he collapsed. The night air outside the forest was different, lighter, cleaner. He gasped, lungs filling greedily, coughing, choking, alive. He turned back once. The forest loomed in silence, but just before he turned away, he heard it one final exhale, deep and long, as though disappointed to have lost its prey. And in the shadows between the trees, he swore he saw Matthew's face, watching, waiting,